Hello, hello, once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our LODS launch 2017. My name is Brian Bork, and I am the LOD platform evangelist, and I am here today to talk about providing guidance and support options, and I'm here with one of the men on the front line, Mr. Victor Torres. Is that right? Torres?
Yes, that's correct. Victor Torres.
And maybe you can give some sort of syntax as to why this is an important issue. Why talking, I mean, we have plenty of technical support options,
Right.
but why have a session on it?
Well, it's important for those that actually use the tools in our platform to be able to have a means to contact support.
Absolutely.
For whatever issues they may have, whether it be content or whether it be a simple question as, how do I log in?
Mm-hmm.
Those questions need to be answered, and we need to have people that are able to support both the instructor and end user on doing these things.
Absolutely. And not just those two groups, but also
Right.
the groups of
Lab developers.
Yes. And operational managers and all of that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that we are presenting as comprehensive a picture as possible in order to make sure that there are at no point does somebody say, yeah, I didn't know how to get a hold of you. And so
Right.
that's why this is really important. And we're also going to talk about some of the functionality that our environment provides in order to support yourself and get a little bit more information about what's going on. So let's head to the slides, as always. And this time we made sure that I had the right slide deck. So we're talking about providing guidance and support options. And here is the kind of the overview is that we're trying to solve problems. That's what guidance and help desk and support and all of those things, they always end up being about solving things. Or, I have something that doesn't work, I need it to work. And then
finding the resolution.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about help desk essentials. We're going to talk about things that you need to know, who to contact when, and so on. We're going to talk about our speed test, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit of depth just because it's pretty important. And it is one of the things that you will often find that you need to do in order to get resolution for your issue. We're going to talk about a relatively new feature for lab developers, and this is specifically for those lab developers out there who want to get feedback about the performance of their machines and whether or not those machines are functioning correctly. And that's the bug reporting feature. We're going to talk about submitting a ticket. Now, you would think that if we were talking about help desk essentials that we would talk about tickets right after it, but in effect, I really wanted to divide those apart because submitting a ticket is the most effective way of getting help desk without reaching out directly to a specific help desk number or any of that kind of thing.
That is correct, specifically for documenting, because we want a history of what's going wrong.
Yes,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, the trainer tools. This is what gives the person who's kind of on the scene the ability to be able to help with technical support, specifically when students are having difficulty doing things. Mm-hmm. So let's dive right in because there are a lot of concerns here. But while this is not a comprehensive list, because you'll notice here that we don't really have every single type of question that might be asked, but we've kind of broken these up into two categories. One is what we call course requests, and the other is just general support. And these are the email addresses that we use in order to be able to reach out to people. But you've noticed that I've sort of divided them up. I want to build a lab, I want to access a course or a class, mm-hmm. or I want to be able to prep, or I want to be able to deliver and things like that. Those types of things can go to our course request team. Now, of course, they could go to support.
They could.
But if you really want the most direct path, course requests will be able to answer those questions more directly than the help desk team without that extra layer of, we will get this over to course requests.
Right.
And then, as far as support at Learn On Demand systems go, that is our general help desk. But specifically when it comes to labs or lab content or issues, your message will best be sent to support@learnondemandsystems.com. Now, even though that's all I put on the slide, I'm going to bring up a page here, and I want to show that it's very easy to get support whether you're a lab developer or a TMS user or an end user, even just trying to sign on, by making sure that when you go to, oops, I went to the wrong page. When you go to a, in this particular case, I'm using Lab on Demand, but just look for the support page. And it's at a link at the top, and often it will be on the logon page, it'll be on the LMS page, or as you see here in Lab on Demand. And if we go to that, not only do you see the email address, our Skype information, as well as a toll-free and toll number for the US and local numbers for most regions in the world. They may not be 100% local, but they're going to be a lot closer than calling a toll number in the US. Even more important is the fact that you can submit a technical support ticket from any one of these support pages. And it's amazing when we talk to people or teach train the trainers or something like that, we will often get a message where they said, I couldn't find your support options, or they'll go to our website and not know where to go. And even on our actual Lab on Demand site, which I had actually closed down at this point, but if I go, I'm sorry, Learn on Demand Systems, even on the launch page, you can go to the top and there's a contact button as well as a support button. And when you go to the support button, lo and behold, it takes you to more information about how to reach out to us. So it is really, really important to know that you always have a place of getting a hold of us, either through our webpage, through our actual logon pages. There's always an ability to reach out to us. Our help desk is manned 24/7. And when I shouldn't say manned, peopled 24/7.
Right.
And we've got round the clock live people. So even though you may get a response that says your ticket has been received, you will also get a follow-up from an actual live person letting you know that they've received that.
That's correct.
That is an excellent question out on the from the guest list here. When calling an international support number, does support speak the local language or is it English only? And at this point, we are English only, but that doesn't mean that in the future we won't have localization as far as support goes. But right now, it is English only, so thank you for that question. All right, so those are the ways to reach out and some suggestions as to when you have certain types of questions that you reach out to those teams. Of course, you can always reach out to your sales contact or other contact within the organization. Now, when you reach out to our help desk, very often the question has something to do with lag or slowness, or my machine isn't responding when I click, or something like that. And these can often be the result of latency. So if you had to describe latency, how would you describe it?
Maybe not having enough bandwidth.
Possibly.
Or maybe a network behind a firewall. There are times that certain organizations will block certain connections.
Yep.
There can be a whole slew of reasons, but I'd say most of the time it's because of poor connection.
Poor connection,
right?
Absolutely. And I do want to reiterate that in a different way. One thing I never want people to do is, even though we refer to it as a speed test, it is much more about the quality of the connection than it is the actual speed of the connection. Because sometimes you can have a really, really fast pipe, or be able to go bandwidth, but you could still be saturating that network, or there could be trouble downstream. That has nothing to do with the the speed at which you were sold, you know, the amount of bandwidth you were sold. But it is really important to always make sure that your connection is clear and as unimpacted as possible. And so what we have done is we have taken off the speed part of the speed test. Even though it's judged there, we are more concerned with the actual speed or the latency and the quality of service or connection quality. And QoS, quality of service, is what we usually refer to it. And there's also what we call the consistency of service. And that means how many of those packets actually get through the first time, and measuring it to your local place. So let's just say that we're in the middle of, I don't know, Oklahoma as an example. No, that's not a really good judge because one of our data centers there. Let's say you're in the middle of North Dakota. And in the middle of North Dakota, you have a really fast connection to your local point of presence. And then from there, it's going to travel out to all of the different places. If you do a speed test to that local point of presence, that isn't going to tell you much.
No.
It's going to tell you you've got blazing fast speed to a local presence. But if you do something like a DSL reports, it may take you to a bigger hop like Chicago or Seattle or, I don't know, Toronto or something. That I'm trying to think of things that are around North Dakota. But you might get a bigger point of presence, but that's still a measure to a major hub. What we don't get is you don't get a speed test directly to the location you're trying to go to. And that is the functionality that our speed test provides. So if we can switch back to the slide, you will see that there is a link up on this slide, and I'm going to show you how you can get to this link quickly and easily, but it is something that's really important to note. We have a specific quality of service test that we do, which is not just speed. And it is essential to have this report and the results of this report when our help desk asks, have you done a speed test? Not DSL reports or your local point of presence, but just a good measurement of your desktop to our servers. So let me show you the easiest way to get to this. And that is from a page that we have that is, I guess the easiest way to refer to it is it's our if you're having trouble page. And in this particular case, it is if you're having trouble with the Hyper-V hosted lab. And this page is chock full of great information. We have, you know, what versions of the web browsers are there or are needed, and what ports are needed. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see firewall exception rules and domain names that need to be put in place, the whitelisting information that needs to be put in if you need to whitelist us in order to run labs.
Right.
But there is one button here that is the most important one, and that is the exact same link as I had on the slide, and that is Launch Speed Test. Now, when you launch the speed test, it will take you in and start measuring your speed, but there's a button at the top that you still have to click. Even though that this is measuring your speed, you do actually want to click on the Start Test so that it goes through and measures what your connectivity is. And you'll notice here that this is measuring quite nicely in speed. And it's going through as far as upload and download. We want to look at both because it is a measure of how fast you're going up and how fast you're coming down. It also does some voice over IP or VoIP testing to estimate how good of a connection you have for voice over IP, which includes something called jitter, so that when you hear that kind of sound in your headset, that you can have an idea of what it is. But notice here that we've got all green except for our consistency of service. Now, right now there are lots and lots of technological things going on at the studio that we're recording at, but it's important to remember that even a really, really good network can get saturated at any particular time. Somebody's running Pandora, or streaming is it
you
still?
You may be sharing that connection with other people or a whole group of people.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And if you're sharing that connection with a whole group of people who are going out to the labs, you could even be saturating a network, and they'd be fighting to go out through the firewall. So this consistency of service and this result that you see here, the voice over IP, this right here, this test result link down at the bottom, that's what our help desk really needs.
Okay.
That is the number that our help desk needs, because we can actually look this test up and we can see exactly what your results are from a raw data standpoint as well as a graphical standpoint. All right? So the results of these speed tests are vital. If you say I'm having lag, or I'm having latency, or I'm having slowness, we can pinpoint, in most cases, we can pinpoint where that latency and slowness may be coming from. It might be your firewall. It might be AT&T. It might be a fiber optic line between here and Japan or something like that. You never know what path your packets are going to take. And so you want to be sure that you're testing the actual connectivity between your client and the servers at our locations. So just remember CAT, and it's easy for me to remember. I like my cat. And I don't think Loki's watching, but if he is, he can follow my hair around and chase it. But just remember CAT, because if you put learnondemandsystems.com/CAT, there you go. All right, so back to the slides. And again, I cannot stress how important it is. It is essential whenever reporting lag and slowness. All right? Bug reporting. Great new feature. I'm amazed that it has taken us this long to get this feature out into general awareness. It has been around for months, and very few lab developers have put this into place. And I want you as lab developers out there to really know that in order to take ownership of your lab content, it is essential, again, there's that word, essential. It is essential that you enable bug reporting and then actually act on those bug reports. So it is a feature in LOD, in Lab on Demand. It is something that the lab developer can turn on and off on a per lab profile. Remember, lab profile is what gives you the launch button. So you can have each one of your lab profiles either have it turned on or have it turned off. The trick here is that the bug reporting feature will actually appear in one of two locations. I'm only going to show you one of those right now, but I will show you where it will appear in a different circumstance. But once you've turned it on, you as a lab developer turn this feature on, it is then enabled for every lab launch after that. So make sure that you turn it on when it's ready to go out into the wild. You don't need to turn it on while it's sitting there being built and so on. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I want to show you here. This is a lab, and I'm going to move it over a little bit. There we go. This is a lab that does not currently have bug reporting enabled. And but there are some support options inside of the lab interface that I want to focus on before I go and turn on bug reporting. On every one of our lab interfaces that are of premium level, experience level, which Corey talked about in his keynote. I don't know why I had trouble with that word. But in your premium level experience, you will have a support tab which will show you your connection. And you'll notice here that we're reporting a really, really excellent connection. When I'm working from home, I don't know about you, but I'm lucky if I get 80 millisecond access, and here we are below 40. Now, it does help that I know that this is running in a Tampa host, and we are located in the middle of beautiful Florida. Right. So we are fairly close, so that kind of makes sense here. But we do have some other support information. I'm going to highlight it here in white. That information is really important when reporting a issue. If it doesn't matter if it's an issue within a specific lab instance or if it's all users with a lab, those pieces of information can be really helpful. And as a matter of fact, the lab ID at the top, even if you only report that, we can find out a lot of information based on just that lab ID. So it's really important for you as either an end user, an instructor, or an operations manager, or even as a lab developer, to make sure you submit that lab ID and preferably all of the support information under support information.
Right.
In fact, I like to recommend, and this is just a recommendation, not a requirement, I won't use the word essential again, when you capture a screenshot, if you were to capture a screenshot, capture the whole window including the support information,
Yes.
and that makes it really easy for us to look up. So, and we're all about making it easy, right?
That's correct.
All right, so let me go ahead and exit this and end my lab. And let me go back to my lab profile, which is, I keep going past it. There we go. So now I'm going to take this lab. And again, this is inside of our lab profile. Basic information, scroll all the way to the bottom. You've heard me say it if you've been in any of the other sessions, and I'm going to say it again. Always be the owner of your content. Put your name in as the content owner. And instead of picking on Victor or Quinn, I'm going to put my name in here. And I'm going to put a fake email address. Don't try to saturate that email address. It won't do you any good. It'll probably, actually, it's probably some company somewhere else. But right above the has IDL content, which Victor and I talked about in a previous session, is enable bug reporting. Now, when I click on this, there are some features and functions that come along with that, and you'll notice that it automatically put my email address in. By default, this will actually start off as blank. But because when I did testing on this, I turned it on and turned it off, it recorded from the previous time. So it remembered that I had this on and that it was my actual email address. And I'm okay with it actually being my email address, even though I'm not going to load up my email to show the result of this. Otherwise, we'll see tons and tons of emails come in, and I don't want to do that. So no emails, please. But anyway, the important thing to remember here is that that's it. That's all you need to do to enable bug reporting is check the box and put your email address in. You click on Save, put a note in. Is it really as loud as what it sounds like when I'm typing? If Phyllis is listening or watching, just so you know, I was typing loudly. I always pick on Phyllis for typing loudly. All right, so now I'm going to launch this lab interface one more time. And now, when we go to that support tab, we're going to see a new function under the support tab. Now, I do want to mention that the bug reporting button moves around depending on whether or not you have IDL content. IDL standing for Integrated Digital Labs. If you have that step-by-step content, the bug report button will appear in the lower right-hand corner of the content page.
That's correct.
But because this doesn't have any content, if you go to the support page, it's really easy to miss, but it's there. Below the support options, there's report a bug. And when I click on this, let me just, this is going to be EC again. So I know what I'll do. I will actually sign out. And we should be back at a sign-in page. In the meantime, I will report a bug. And I'm going to enter a one-line survey, which is, I do not know how to log in. Steps to reproduce the problem. Launch lab. Sign out. Get stuck. All right, expected behavior. Already be, and I'm typing this in the voice of a typical bug reporter. Already be logged in. And what went wrong? I don't know. I am just reporting it. And any other comments? None at this time. Also, down at the bottom, you will see a checkbox that says submit a screenshot of what you're doing to help support whatever it is that you're trying to, where you're encountering the problem. If you're getting an error screen, you can do a screenshot of that. And then click on Submit Bug Report. It then takes your information, sends it along. It's been successfully submitted, and thanks for your feedback. And now you're back in and sort of ready to go and continue on doing your lab. Now that's all I need this lab interface for, so I'm going to go ahead and end that. But I want to come back in and I want to sort of give you a rundown on the nature of bug reporting. When you're doing bug reporting, you are providing information, but that's all you're doing. Right. You're not trying to initiate a bi-directional communication where you tell somebody something, they're going to tell you something back. You are reporting an issue, and you're done. That person, hopefully, is going to get that information, fix the issue, and he or she will be done, or they will be done. It is really designed as unidirectional communication. It is not bi-directional communication. So now I, as a lab developer, at that point, as soon as that user submitted a bug report, I would have gotten an email. Right. And it would have said, hey, you've got a bug report. And, yes.
So typically, whose email should be in the bug report, typically?
It is almost always the content owner.
The content owner,
yep.
Okay.
The content owner is the person who typically puts their email address in there. But it could be multiple people. You can actually put a comma-separated list of different people, and then everybody would get a copy of that.
Gotcha.
So you know about, a team could know about it, or you could use a distribution list as well. But the key to this is it doesn't matter how many people receive it, as long as at least one person comes in and takes a look at it.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely correct, and a very good point. So let me refresh here and notice that underneath our description of our lab, we now have a section here called Open Bug Reports. And there is a kind of a rundown of what it is. It is an unconfirmed minor medium priority submitted on today. And if I click on this, I have information about what was going on. I even have instance information about who was signed on and what they were doing at the time. So it got reported. We have some information about when this was submitted. And again, you get an email notification telling you that there was a bug report, giving you a synopsis or a summary of what has happened. But this is where you have to go in order to actually get anything accomplished with the bug report. Right. So if you go in and look at the lab and go, oh yeah, that's right, the person wasn't logged in, you're going to go ahead and edit this and say, yep, that was a confirmed bug. It is minor, the priority is low, and we can assign it to a specific person within the organization. And we can even say that we expect it to be complete by the end of the day today. And then click on Save. Now, even though, and of course we could put a note in as well, but even though we have acknowledged the fact that there is a bug, this bug is not gone. This bug is not fixed. So when we go back and refresh the page on the lab,
it's still there.
It's still there. The only thing that's changed now is it now says confirmed.
Confirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So this allows you to sort of keep track of what's going on from a bug reporting standpoint and allow you to be able to make some alterations based on what you see. Finally, I would like to say that when you do go in and actually edit the lab and change whatever needed to be changed, if you go into the bug report and say, all right, this is now a, oops, can't click on it. This is now a fixed bug, and then click on Save, and then say we fixed the bug and completed it, and click on OK. Now, when we go back to our thing and refresh our page, we go back to our lab profile, notice no open bug reports appear.
Right.
Because as a developer, or as the content owner, all you really care about are open bugs. Once they're closed, you don't need to keep track of those.
That is correct.
So these are really there just to keep you aware of things that still need to be fixed. And it really can be handy and helpful. So as you're developing labs out there, make sure to enable this bug reporting. Even in the early stages, it doesn't hurt for you to be able to submit a bug report to remember, all right, I need to go in and change a VM to do this, or you know, this wasn't working as expected.
And I think for content owners, I think this is something that is definitely going to be useful.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you know, a lot of times content owners don't know what's going on with their labs, and then, you know, later on down the line, you know, they find out when it's too late, when you know, when the lab has already been put to production.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
right. You want them to catch this before production, at least ideally, right?
Well, that's the goal. But you also
yeah.
want to have a way for an end user to communicate with you directly, even if they're not physically, you know, they don't have your email address or anything like that.
Yeah,
and that's really important for you to understand, is that you don't have to give out your email address. They just click on submit a bug report, and they don't even know who it's going to. They just know that somebody in charge is going to be taking care of this.
Got it.
All right, now we've already talked about some of this, but I do want to talk about all of the ways that you can submit a ticket. And for those of you who haven't done so, submitting a technical support ticket to our company is relatively painless, and it is ultimately the easiest way of reaching out to us and getting help. So submitting a ticket, you can always email directly to support@learnondemandsystems.com. Every email that goes in there is tracked, but you do have to remember that using an email address is less effective, especially if all you do is say, I need help. Right. So you always want to give yourself a clear subject and a clear text inside of the email when you're emailing support, to make sure that that ticket is going to actually have some relevant information.
Right. If the end user wants a quick response or even a quick resolution, it's very helpful for us to be able to get a clear and concise, you know, description of the problem.
Right.
If we don't have that, then we're just second guessing, and then what we'll end up doing is having to recontact you in order to get more information, and that just takes more time, and it's not as efficient.
Right, and it's not just easier for us, it's easier for the initial reporter as well.
Agreed.
Because otherwise you have to wait for us to send you something to get clarification on exactly what your problem is. So emailing support@learnondemandsystems.com is a way of filling out a ticket. But it is also an easy way of doing it is to go to the 2 links that are below there. By the way, this is the only picture I think I have in all of my slides. So voila, the one picture I have. But on the content page, regardless of whether there's content there or not, there will be a submit support request up at the top. Or excuse me, at the bottom under the resources. And you can actually submit a ticket from here. It opens up a separate window and allows you to submit a ticket right from inside of the lab interface. This is really helpful for those people who have gotten into a lab and then are running into trouble, so you don't even have to exit your lab in order to get the information that you need. It's sort of like submit a bug report only to our help desk, except that it doesn't include the screenshot and stuff like that. You still need to include that separately. You can also go to our help center. Now, there have been some questions that have come up over when we weren't even here presenting about where the videos are for the show. And Phyllis has been very gracious and answered and said, hey, they're going to be on our support site. And people are saying, well, they're not there yet. That is absolutely correct. They are not being put there as they're being recorded. They're going to be edited and put up there into small chunks, small digestible chunks, as I call them. So it's important to remember that those videos aren't going to be up there right away, nor are they going to be on our YouTube channel right away. Eventually, they will be in several places, and as a follow-up, we'll make sure that everybody who has everyone has the information they need to be able to get to them. But there are two separate links. One of them is our help center, and the other one is the actual help center ticket creator. And so the ticket creator is a nice little form that you fill out and gets you the information that gets us the information that we need to be able to answer your ticket in a quick, easy to answer format. Otherwise, the Help Center is an excellent place to start. I like it so much that I'm going to show you what the Help Center looks like in case you've never been there. I would hope that most of you have been there. But let me just bring this up real quick. It helps if I type correctly again.
Okay, so there's a guest asking, so the recording won't be available to rewatch in their I'm assuming you mean entirety, correct?
Oh no, they will be available in their entirety, but they're going to be a collection. Actually, as Corey mentioned in the opening, we're going to make an edX course out of them.
Okay, gotcha.
And put them all together into one big thing.
Okay.
So I am still having trouble typing my help desk. There's our help desk, help center, excuse me, help center. So when you come into our help center, you have the ability to be able to come in here and get lots and lots of good information right away. Helping you help yourself is really what this is all about. So we have in here some examples for developers. You click on this, and as a developer, what questions do you have? What is it that you're trying to get the answer to?
Right.
And there's a general plethora of different types here. How do I check my storage capacity?
So these are FAQs and how-tos.
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. So a perfect example is from an earlier session today. We said, how do I create a lab series? So I click on this, and not only do you get step-by-step instructions, you also get a little guiding video to help you with that as well. These can be really helpful for those, help my pipe is broken in my house and I need to repair the pipe, but I don't want to become certified as a plumber.
Oh, there you go.
So these are really, really good little snippets of information just specifically on a specific topic. All right? So that is a very, very important place. Don't forget to call our support numbers if you need to, or look for us on Skype as well.
Right. Don't forget that the help desk is 24/7. There's always somebody manning the phones.
That's correct. And you do not want to hesitate to reach out to us. Our team works really, really hard to make sure that you get a great service and support.
Yes, I second that.
Well, you're one of the people who's often answering tickets. So.
That's right.
Okay, so the last section, and we're getting towards the end, but we want to make sure that we're covering things as effectively as possible. The last section is, what can a trainer do to help their class? And even though this is not specific to trainers, this whole thing we've talked about, lab developers and operations managers and even end users, there are some things that are really, really essential. So if you want to go ahead and launch that lab if you haven't already.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to do a little simulation here of monitoring a student and even being able to take control of a student. The one thing I'm not going to show you, I'm going to show you how to do it, but I'm not going to show you the actual result, is sharing files with the student, because we only have one desktop at a time here. So, whoops.
It's still in launch mode.
That's fine. So we want to talk about here, I need to figure out where my slide is.
Monitoring.
Nope, those are lab profiles, that's support. I have it here somewhere. Lab interface topics, that's not it. Oop. I have it open in one of these windows. There we go. This is a perfect example.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't remember if I had it in Edge, if I had it in Internet Explorer, or one of the 5 other web browsers that I have out there. As somebody who worked in support for a number of years, I have a lot of web browsers open and available to me. But this is our training management system, and while this is not the only way of being able to get to monitor a student's lab, it's one of the most effective ways. Right. And if you're not using our training management system, I have to put a plug in for it. It is awesome. It's one of the things that originally got me interested in Learn on Demand systems. So But the functionality, the cool part of this is when you are an instructor in a class, you can actually keep an eye on what your students are doing and how they're proceeding through their lab. So you've got that open, I'm assuming, now?
Yes, I do.
All right. So on this page, you will have a Monitor Labs button. And when you click on that Monitor Labs, you're going to see the people. You can go ahead and log in.
Okay.
And maybe open up a browser
Sure.
or something like that. When people are working inside of the lab, and in this particular case, we only have one Samantha student, and somebody suggested that with my hair, I might want to be the student because I have long hair. But I'm not. I'm not going to play Samantha today. I'm playing the part of Brian Bork today. So I am the instructor. I am looking at my students. I would see, it doesn't matter if there are 10 or a dozen or 25 students in my class, and it doesn't matter if it's a physical class, a hybrid class, or a remote delivery class. All of my students that are in labs will appear here. And I'll be able to see exactly when they launched, how long they've been running, what the story is behind their lab, okay? And that's really, really effective,
Yes.
Especially when you see that somebody has launched a lab 25 minutes ago and their last activity was 24 minutes ago.
It's a great tool for the instructors.
It is. It is absolutely indispensable. So this is a nice overview, but as you can see, that little tiny thumbnail over here on the left side is not all that effective at showing you what they're up to. Plus, it only gets refreshed every minute, and sometimes it's even longer. So there's a button over on the right-hand side, a link button, that says Monitor. And when I click on this, a new window opens, and now I can see exactly what the student is doing. And you probably are going to get kicked out of your lab because, once again, I'm using an EC lab.
Ah, okay.
So I should be able to view. No, actually, let me see here. Just going to switch up to a different controller. Okay. By the way, which you can do at any time, and it's fairly effective at working here.
So is ESM enabled in this one?
It's not enabled. And I don't have...
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't taken control. That's why I'm not able to actually start clicking. Yeah. But I am actually able to see what the student is doing and what they're up to.
Right.
And then along the top, I can click on Take Control, and now I can go in and actually sign on.
And you've taken control?
And I've taken control and can see exactly what they were up to and say, well, you weren't supposed to be in a web browser. You were supposed to be in a file browser. I now then release control back to the student, and the student is capable of resuming and doing whatever it is that they need to do.
So let me ask you a question, because it's a question that gets asked to us a lot.
Okay.
Does the student know that they're being monitored?
You caught me just as I was drinking. Yes. No, they do not know that they're being monitored. As a matter of fact, as an instructor, it is really putting the onus on you to let the student know that it is possible for you to be watching. And now, if you say something like that, like, I'm watching you, that gets a little bit scary to a student, because they think that you're monitoring their work computer or their personal computer, or just looking over their shoulder the whole time. The important thing to remember is that you are monitoring their virtual machines, the VMs from the lab. You are not going and monitoring their machine using a third-party tool or Join Me or GoToMeeting or something like that. So it is always essential to make sure that you're letting students know that if you do monitor them, or if you take control, that you are doing so just to the virtual machine that they're working on, not to their physical desktops.
Got it.
But yeah, that's an excellent question, and he's right. We do get that question all the time. Okay, so one last thing, and then I think we're going to be done here, is we're going to talk about sharing files with your students. Now, it isn't really essential to show the end result, but you as an instructor may have a situation, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in our sessions, not this session, but previous sessions. We were asked a question about getting some some customized information to students. And sharing files through the instructor file section is a really effective way of getting things to a student. Now, does that mean that you are going to customize content for each individual student? No, this is going out to every single student. But once again, it is going out to their VMs, their virtual machines. It's not going out to the individual student themselves. But if you click on Share Files, and you take either files that have already been uploaded, which is what is already here, or if you click on Upload and then take files from your machine and upload them. Again, I don't want to use up the bandwidth to do that here, but you can just share files. We can pretend that I uploaded, and then click on OK, and then the student is going to get a message saying that your instructor has shared, in this case it's called Brian's Files, Brian's Files with you. Click here, go here, and do this, and you'll be able to see those files. This is an excellent way of getting them script examples or SQL statements and stuff like that, like in a text document, or maybe some executables that they need in order to be able to run the most up-to-date cumulative update or something like that. Really effective way of being able to put that in place.
Or sometimes if they start a class and the instructor realizes that there's something missing, and they need a quick, they need to push out a quick file to the student. They can do that right then and there.
Absolutely.
Now, is there a limit?
There is, in fact, a limit. It's marked on your instructor files area. You can't see it because it's on the screen here. So if I can get the full screen. That's excellent. You can see it right down in the lower right-hand corner, and they're probably cursing me every single time I do this because it's always something. I need something in the lower right-hand corner. But it's right down here. It shows you exactly how many files you have, or how much space you have. Every single instructor in our system has 2 gigabytes of their own personal storage, and of course you can delete or change up the files as you need to.
So it's important for the instructor to understand that this is not unlimited storage.
Yes. Okay. Very important for the instructor just to understand that. And that, as they say, is that. I want to thank you very much. Victor is off to join other sessions, but otherwise come back and we will have another session in just a little while. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.